Okay, imagine this. The air is thick,
Yeah.
right? Smells of spices, maybe some exhaust fumes, but definitely spices. There's this constant hum, traffic, horns, people calling out.
Yeah, a real assault on the senses, but in a fascinating way.
Exactly. And colors everywhere. That's sort of the intro sensory hit of Delhi.
Yeah.
And that's what we're diving into today.
Yeah.
We've got this really interesting piece, Inside Delhi, History, Food, Festivals, and the Harsh Truth. Our mission really is to unpack all that complexity.
To get a feel for what makes the city, tick.
Yeah. So think of this as your quick guide, your way to grasp all these different facets, the history, the food, the culture, celebrations, and, well, the tough stuff too, the realities.
And what's just incredible about Delhi, as the text points out, is the sheer time depth.
Right.
We're talking, what, over 2,500 years? It's one of the planet's oldest cities that's, never stopped being a city.
Continuously inhabited. Yeah.
Exactly. And it's less like one single city and more like layers. Settlements built one on top of the other for centuries.
That layers idea is really cool. The piece mentions some of the big hitters, landmark-wise. Qutub Minar, 12th century.
Amazing structure.
The Red Fort, huge Mughal symbol where they do the independence celebration.
A powerful symbol.
And then India Gate, Humayun's tomb, even the newer Lotus Temple. Each one feels like a different chapter.
It's like walking through time, literally. You mentioned layers. Can you elaborate on that, this idea of different settlements?
Well, think of it strategically. Delhi was always in a key spot. So different rulers, different empires, they'd set up their capital, their power base, often very close to the previous one.
Oh, okay.
You get these sort of phantom cities or earlier versions. Indraprastha from way back.
Yeah.
Then maybe Lalkot, Siri to Glakabad.
A whole list of them.
Yeah, Jahanpana, Firozabad, Shah Jahanabad, which basically old Delhi today.
And each left its mark. Architecture, culture, maybe even street layouts in some places. You can still sort of peel back those layers if you know where to look.
It changes how you see those old buildings, doesn't it? They're not just old, they're part of this sequence.
Precisely.
And the history itself is epic. Maharata battlefields nearby, the whole Mughal Empire spectacle, the fight for independence. The text says every stone here has a tale to tell.
And you really feel that. It's not just a saying. These places witnessed things.
Right.
Which period do you think really stamped its identity most strongly?
Tough question. But probably the Mughals, wouldn't you say? The text leans that way, too.
Oh, absolutely. Their impact was enormous. The architecture, obviously, Red Fort, Jama Masjid.
Humayun's tomb, too, precursor to the Taj.
Right. But also administration, language, food. So much of what we think of as North Indian culture has deep Mughal roots. It's still there.
And it wasn't all grand building projects, was it? The text brings up the fights and revolutions. Razia Sultana, the only woman to rule the Delhi Sultanate.
A fascinating figure. Very rare for the time.
Invasions like Timur and the Dir Shah, which were apparently devastating.
Yeah.
And then 1857, the First War of Independence, Delhi was right in the thick of it.
It was a key center for the uprising, yes. A lot of bloodshed.
Makes you think about the people living through that, the resilience required.
Definitely. And that resilience, it seems to be a recurring theme. The text hints that Delhi's been through a lot, even recently. Political stuff, protests, sadly even terrorist attacks.
Yet it bounces back. It keeps going.
It does. Which kind of brings us to the people now, the culture today. The piece calls it a melting pot.
Yeah, it lists people from all over India, Punjabis, Bengalis, Tamils, Biharis. Basically, everyone has come to Delhi at some point.
And they all bring their own flavor, their own traditions, their food, their music. How does that actually look day to day?
Well, you just see it, I think, in the clothes people wear, the different languages you hear.
Right. The text mentions Hindi, Punjabi, Urdu, English as the main ones.
Yeah, you hear that mix everywhere. And in the festivals, which we'll get to.
Yeah.
But maybe most powerfully in the mix of religions.
Ah, yes, the point about seeing a temple, a mosque, and a church on the same street.
That image is strong, isn't it? Hinduism, Islam, Christianity, Sikhism, Jainism, all coexisting. It's kind of amazing in such a crowded place.
It really is. How does that work, you wonder? How do they maintain that level of tolerance, generally speaking?
That's a deep question. Maybe shared experiences, shared city. Well, let's talk about something else that brings people together. The food.
Okay, now we're talking. A food lover's paradise, the text says. And it's not wrong.
Not just fancy places, right? The street food gets a huge shout out. Chol bhature, golgappi.
Pani puri, some call it. Those little explosive shells of flavor.
Aloo tikki, chaat of all kinds, kebabs. Just listing them makes you hungry.
Yeah.
If you had to pick one street food for a first-timer.
Ooh, tough one. Maybe start with some classic chet or chol for sure if you're really hungry. But honestly, Chandni Chowk is the place to just wander and try things.
So that's the old market, right?
Yeah, historical heart, sensory overload guaranteed. Paranthe Wala Gali is in there too, the lane of stuffed breads. Iconic.
The text also makes a big deal of Mughlai cuisine. Biryani, butter chicken.
Nihari, slow-cooked meat stew. Classic Delhi Mughlai breakfast for some hardcore foodies.
These dishes have history woven into them, don't they?
Absolutely. Direct descendants of the Mughal kitchens. Fusion cooking from centuries ago, Persian, Central Asian, Indian flavors all coming together. Rich, complex stuff.
And mentioning places like Kareem's near Jama Masjid.
Legendary. Claims lineage back to Mughal royal cooks.
Or Parenta Wali Gali, or Chandni Chowk itself. These are more than restaurants, they're experiences. The text nails it. If you come to Delhi and don't eat from the streets, you've missed half the city.
It's so true. Food is social, it's cultural, it's history on a plate there. You connect with the city through its food.
And that same energy, that enthusiasm, seems to pour into the festivals. Grand celebrations, the text calls them.
Oh, yeah. Delhi goes all out. Diwali, the Festival of Lights.
Yeah.
The whole city just glows. It's incredible.
Little clay lamps, fairy lights everywhere. It sounds beautiful.
It really is. Then you have Holi, total chaos, color everywhere, lots of fun, maybe some bang involved.
The special festive drink, right?
Uh-huh. And Eid, with the aroma of sweet saviyan and biryani in the air, especially around Old Delhi. Christmas gets mentioned too. Churches and malls decorated.
Plus Durga Puja, Baisakhi, Lori, Navratri. It covers the whole spectrum. It reinforces that point. Delhi doesn't belong to any one religion. It celebrates them all.
That inclusivity seems key to its identity. Does celebrating together help bridge divides, do you think, in such a diverse place?
You have to imagine it does, right?
Right.
Sharing food, sharing joy, it builds connections.
Probably plays a big role. It fosters a kind of shared civic identity.
Moving beyond food and festivals, what about performing arts? Dance and music. The piece mentions North Indian roots.
Yeah, classical stuff like Kathak. There are venues like Kamani Auditorium keeping those traditions alive. And folk dances too, Bhangra and Gita, especially when Punjabis celebrate Baisakhi or Lori.
But it's not just traditional, is it?
Not at all. The text mentions the modern scene too. Dance battles, hip-hop culture, loads of DJs. Places like Hoskas Village or Connaught Place have a buzzing nightlife.
And live music.
Definitely. Sufi music nights at Nizamuddin Dargah are supposed to be magical. And lots of indie bands playing in clubs. So again, that mix of old and new.
That blend seems to define modern Delhi. The infrastructure. The metro, which is apparently excellent.
A game changer for getting around.
High-rises, fancy malls. But right alongside these chaotic, traditional markets like Sarojini Nagar or Lajpat Nagar. Shopper's paradise, apparently, if you like bargaining.
Oh, absolutely. It's a city of stark contrasts. Gleaming new metro stations next to centuries-old monuments, modern offices overlooking crowded street markets.
And it's a huge education hub, too. Delhi University, JNU, IIT, AIMS, attracting students from everywhere. Adds to the youthful energy, I guess.
Definitely. Keeps the city dynamic and forward-looking, even with all its history.
Okay, but the article title promises the harsh truth. We have to talk about the bad side of Delhi.
Right, you need the full picture. It's not all history and amazing food. There are serious challenges.
Top of the list seems to be pollution.
Yeah. Sadly, Delhi often ranks among the world's most polluted cities, especially with air quality in the winter. It's a major public health issue they're grappling with.
And the traffic. Honking chaos sounds about right from what I've heard.
Peak hours are intense. The sheer number of cars, bikes, auto rickshaws, it's gridlock and noise. Takes a toll.
The text also mentions safety issues, specifically for women. It says things have improved, but concerns remain.
That's a complex issue in many big cities, and Delhi is no exception. Crime, harassment. It's something the city continues to work on, but it's a reality that affects people's sense of security.
And just the pressure of so many people. Overcrowding, noise, the relentless pace of life.
It can be overwhelming, definitely. It's a city that demands a certain energy level from you.
So it paints this picture of a city really struggling with its own growth, its own success in some ways. Yet, the article ends on why people love Delhi. Despite all these problems, what's the magic?
Well, the text suggests a few things. That mix of past and future where history lives and the future is built, that feels potent.
Yeah, that's a good line.
The inclusivity, it welcomes everyone. Rich, poor, insider, outsider. Maybe that sense of possibility.
And the sheer life experience it throws at you. Stories, struggles, and success all in one lifetime.
That resonates. It's not an easy city, maybe, but it's a city where things happen. Which of those points clicks most with you?
I think the give you stories part, it feels like a place that forces you to engage, to adapt, to live intensely, and maybe that struggle creates a strong bond. And the people, the Delites themselves, sound resilient, maybe a bit loud, but warm.
That spirit is definitely part of the allure. So pulling it all together from this deep dive,
Yeah.
we got immense history, a vibrant, diverse culture, absolutely incredible food, huge celebrations, a modern, fast-paced life.
And some really significant challenges: pollution, traffic, safety, crowding, the harsh truth.
Exactly. But somehow it adds up to more than the sum of its parts.
Like the text says, not just a city, it's an emotion, a living museum, a beating heart of India. It feels like a place you experience rather than just visit.
Absolutely. If you've been, you probably get that feeling. If you haven't,
Yeah.
well, maybe this gives you a sense of what awaits.
It definitely leaves you thinking, doesn't it, about how these ancient cities carry their past while hurtling into the future.
Yeah, how do they keep that soul, that identity, with all the pressures of modern urban life? It makes you wonder about the character of cities everywhere and that deep connection people forge with the place they call home, flaws and all.